Welcome to the Low Carb MD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we have always said, we are bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor. Welcome to the Low Carb MD podcast. I am here with an amazing person. Joan Denizot is here today. She is going to talk about her book. She's going to talk about her amazing company. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Joan started a company called Zize Bikes, which has a mission to serve people with bigger bodies. Obesity has been increasing in our country drastically, and there's been incredible weight stigma, prejudice against people who are in bigger bodies. And her mission has been to get people in bigger bodies to feel comfortable moving, getting them on bicycles that fit them, that are made for them. And she's really been a maverick in the field of destigmatizing obesity and taking sort of the prejudice out of having a bigger body. I am so happy to have her here. We know each other. We're friendly. I'm so impressed. I send patients to her. I'm so impressed by her. And she has a book. And you should go to Amazon and get the book. It's called Big Body Business. Okay. And she is going to talk to us about her own struggles with weight and why she started this company and why she wrote this book. So I'm just happy to have her here today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Tro. I look forward to sharing my story. So where do I begin? I guess I don't know how much you can tell, but I'm not a thin person. And I have struggled, in my mind, I've struggled with being heavy my whole life. I look back at pictures of me in high school or even, as a 6-year-old. I mean, I wasn't thin, but I wasn't fat. I just was a little chubby. I was a little bigger than average. But in my mind, I was always fat. And so I began to fulfill that destination for myself. And I've probably volleyed, lose 100, gain 100 back. I mean, it's a sad thing. But the thing is, it's not uncommon. And but you feel alone when you're doing that. You feel alone. Remember, I went to a doctor about 10 years ago. And he said to me, well, you need to lose weight. I said, yeah, I know. And he said, yeah, I don't care how you do it, just lose weight. Like, thank you.
Listen,
I never thought of that.
You're really poor. You need to make more money. I don't really care how you do it, but just make more money.
Let's do it. That's right. So it was, and that is typical of what I'd hear, and I would venture to guess that the vast majority of people who either need or want to lose weight here, there's not a lot of systems in place to help us do that. And that is, I'm just going to do a little pitch for Tro. It's not, he asked me not to do this, but his whole process involves getting lessons and support. Community, build it so that you have trust and you can talk to people and you can come to people when you're teetering, like, I want that chocolate. No, I want to go for a run. Just like it's there for the support. And so Tro does an amazing job. So thank you, Tro, for that work. It's amazing.
So people don't want to hear about me. People want to hear about.
I know. Right, let me think.
Let's actually go back. Let's go back. So
go back. We'll go back to the bikes.
Yeah. So you mentioned, well, even before that, you mentioned struggling with weight, right? You look back at pictures. I've talked about my own sort of weight stigma. You're also a pioneer of inclusivity. Right, getting people with bigger bodies to feel safe, feel to to not, to be able to do the things we all take for granted. And I'll talk a little bit about that because people don't know what it's like. And a lot of times I talk about it. You go on an airplane, and I was it was 350, it was over, touching 400, and I asked for a seatbelt extender, and the stewardess, or I don't know what they call them now, she said, "Can you get me a hog strap to the other, the other stewardess?" And I can't tell people, and I wouldn't want to go to carnivals. I wouldn't want to go to fairs because I could never fit on a seat. I didn't want to go bike riding because the seats wouldn't even work for me, right? It would be miserable. I didn't want to go to the gym because, the Snickers and sneers, I just couldn't deal with it. And so I know, like, you're an entrepreneur and you set up this business, but I know you felt something that made you do this. And if you could just talk about that.
Yeah. Well, as I started to explain before, it's like my life, I always thought I was fat. And when you are fat, those examples you gave, Tro, like, speak to my heart. Every person I know, I mean, I swim every morning, and I actually kind of call it my therapy session, because a bunch of us get together and we tread water and we talk. And this is a group of 8 women. Most of them are thin, what I would consider thin. Every single one of us has been told that we are fat, and every single one of us believes we are fat because society tells us you're wrong, you're bad. One of them, her uncle used to say, "Oh, you have such a big butt." This woman has a gorgeous figure, but that's what she always heard. So that's what she internalized. And God, your story about the plane is heart-wrenching. I in my book, Big Body Business, I have a story in here about a plane ride that is similar. It's different. It's the customer that was complaining, another flyer, but it's what happens. And part of my challenge, when I started Zize Bikes about 20 years ago, a little less than 20 years ago, and Zize Bikes were the only store in the world that makes bikes especially for heavy people. And I originally designed it to go up to 550 pounds. I didn't know how big it needed to be. I just guessed, how big could you be and ride a bike? That was how I came up with that scientific formula. And then later I found out that, like, when hospitals do like bariatric things, they make the weight capacity 550 pounds. So that, that was actually a good guess on my part. But so that was what I was building. And nobody was doing it then. Nobody was doing that. And it was very frustrating because there's a huge need, but people were ignored, completely ignored. And riding a bike is one of the best exercises because it's non-weight bearing. So it's really easy to do, assuming you have balance. And it was very hard. I tried to find a bike. I didn't intend to start a store. I wanted to buy a bike. And what I found out is, like, I'd call places, I'd go places, I'd talk to manufacturers, I'd be like, "Oh, they're really strong. They'll hold 200 pounds." And I'll be like, I'm not the only fat person in the world that wants to ride a bike. Right. I mean, I was like, come on. And so that's how I started that company. And, it's been a journey, and it's been amazing. And we've helped a lot of people.
Well, can we talk about that? Was there anger? Was there any feelings? Like, I give another story. I remember being 13, sitting in my doctor's office right before he told me that I'm fat, right? And sitting there for 2 hours, and I'm walking out of there angry. And I was like, you couldn't put a bike in the waiting room. Like, you put me you put me on this little chair that I couldn't even fit in because the armrests were like this big, right? And then he told me, I'm like, I waited 2 hours. You couldn't put something in there for me to move. So I'd imagine, you're like, I can't find the bike for me. And you got to get angry at some point. You're talking to these people, these manufacturers, and they're like totally missing it. I mean, I'd imagine there's some feeling there that you started this company. I want to get a sense of that feeling.
That's really ironic that you say that, because I think I was so used to being ignored as a heavy person, it didn't dawn on me to get angry. And anyone who knows me now knows that I know how to get angry. Anyone who's known me my whole life knows that I know how to get angry. You know, I've got a little Italian, even though I'm not Italian. I've got something in me that catches on fire. And it never dawned on me to get angry. All I could think is I have to change it. I wasn't angry. I was just like, well, that's ridiculous. I am not the only fat person who wants to ride a bike. And so, you know, the irony is that I should have been angry. You're absolutely right. But, you know, I'm a woman and I had heard that my whole life. And I think it's worse for women, although because more and more men are becoming overweight and obese, it's getting pretty bad for them too. I'm not belittling their experience, but women are told it's like, a friend of mine was saying her father, who was like almost 90, was talking about his great granddaughter and who was 4 and said, well, she's getting a little chunky, a 4-year-old,
Jeez.
right?
The weight stigma on women, and you can see it in the anorexia data and the data for eating disorders. You know, there's about a 20-to-1. Still does happen in men, and it's actually the fastest increasing
Yes.
segment is male eating disorders. But you're right, historically, that pressure on women to be a certain body image, and anybody with daughters can understand that. They know it. And it's huge. You know, it's an enormous problem. So you almost were like you're not even fighting against that. You're just like, I want a bike, you know.
I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to fix it for me. And since I had just taken the class on how to build a website, this was 20 years ago, right? And my mother roped me into that. Take this class with me. And I'm like, whatever. And so I learned how to do it. And that's how I did it. I just did it very much. I don't know anything about bicycles. So I lurked on bike boards, bike frame builders. And I found this one guy that I really liked the way he talked. And I talked to him and I said, do you know how to build a bike for a heavy person? He said, oh yeah, my uncle's really heavy. You know, I do a steel frame and I do this and I do that. And I'm like, would you want to build some? And so he sent me a prototype and I was so thrilled because I felt safe. I could get on that bike, the seats, it's funny. I mean, seats are always a question. I don't care who you are, what size you are. Everyone says, is the bicycle seat comfortable? But for me, the big deal is I would ride on the bike and I'd turn, like I just turned my head and the whole seat would turn and then it would stay turned. So you're riding lopsided, very, very dangerous. So, what we did is we added an extra screw in the seat post so it didn't move. So we can't use just change the seat post at whatever height you want. We have to do double bolted. That's all it took, right? So it's like very it's not huge changes. I mean, it does matter what material you build it with. And as we developed later models, we put a wider space between the where you put your feet. It's called the Q factor. You make it bigger because people have a bigger stance. I mean,
oh my God, I hate that when I get on the bike and it's like all you get is like like any person who's a bigger body knows the chafing.
Yes.
Right? And it's the worst. It's like, why don't they think of like, the message is exercise and then they give you the worst possibly ergonomic things to do.
That's one of the things that we talk about in my book is like everyone says you should exercise, but they don't make equipment for us to exercise. It's not safe. I mean, hello, talk about a double-edged sword. So yes, there are all sorts of little things like that. So that we've addressed, and we built these great bikes, and it's hard because they're small batches, they're expensive, they are, and I recognize that, and I recognize the challenges that go with it. But what I've learned after doing this for over 20 years is people that have nothing to do with bikes have reached out to me and asked me to speak to them because they need to understand their customers. They need to figure out why their businesses are sinking And because, but they only go to a size 12. Well, there is your first reason your business is sinking. Your ladders hold 200 pounds. There's another reason. I mean, it's so, I'm leaping into my book, but this is the book that I just wrote. It's brand new. This is just the proof copy. So, but it's on Amazon and it's just in Kindle too. So it's available both. But the whole thing is, it's so much more than your body size. And it's so much more. If everyone was treated the same way, if I could go into a store and buy whatever I wanted, my life would be changed. I can't do that. I can't do that now. And I've lost a bunch of weight recently. Thank you, Tro. I mean, I've lost over 100 pounds and I still sometimes can't find things to fit me. So and I'm not, well, I'm still considered obese, but I'm certainly not morbidly obese like I was. But I can't find things to fit me, right? Is this crazy? I mean, it's crazy. People like, well, anyway, so what I want to say about this book is this is written to help businesses understand why it's important to include size diversity, because we, do you know what the percentage of overweight and obese people are in the US? You probably know this, Tro.
Yeah.
70%. Now, my virtual assistant was putting that on our Facebook page, and I said, Lindy, that's too big. I don't have those figures in my book. And she showed me on the CDC where that's what it says. 70%. And the obese are like 40% of that.
Yeah.
And even people that make large sizes, most of them are not even close. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It wastes a bunch of time. People have money. These people are finally getting, hired appropriately and earning reasonable salaries and want to spend their money. They want to go on vacations that are comfortable. They want a car that fits them. They want to ride a bike. They want to go snowshoeing. I mean, there's so many things that we can't do because of our size. And to me, that is insane. Because it's like, oh, big store, you want to make more money? Well, let's keep doing tiny little sizes and lightweight or chairs that have arms like this. Anyway, see, I can get mad.
Well, let's talk about this because, I just want to talk about this because I think it's important to understand. People don't understand that businesses need help, right? And, businesses need help just understanding their customers. And I think because there's this intense weight stigma, like maybe these businesses are, they're at this place where they don't want to, maybe they don't want to, I don't know, maybe they feel like they're facilitating or you are helping people. Like you are going to be helping people if you just take a second and think, how can I help somebody with obesity? How can I be of service and value to somebody with obesity? When I go to the local diner, when I go to sit on a chair and that chair is fixed and the table is fixed, I mean, my family members don't want to go there. They don't want to go there, right? And that place is going to lose business, right? So like, can you start to like walk me through some of these industries and maybe like some like quick tips you'd have? I talk to doctors every day and I tell them, if you want to reach those people, you better be easy, approachable. They better walk into your office. Well, ideally, they don't have to walk into your office, but when they walk into your office, okay, there should not be an armrest anywhere. There should not be an armrest. We have chairs right here that support up to 1,000 pounds, right? They don't have armrests. They're double wide. We have couches in the front, literally couches, right? Anybody of any size can fit, right? And so just these small things. The hallways are not like 3 feet. We have 4.5-foot hallways, right? So people can feel comfortable walking in and out. And you know how long, Joan, I'm going to just tell you this and then I'm going to stop talking because that's our biggest complaint. Sure, let the guests talk. It took me about 5 years to stop when my body size changed, to stop shifting to my side when I walk through a narrow area. Right. And if you're somebody who's been in a big body, you know what I'm talking about. You try to, sort of shift when you see like an area that's kind of narrow, you immediately turn. And my wife commented, I remember she was commenting, she's like, why do you turn your body when you're walking? She didn't understand, right? Because she's looking at it like, here's this body and
what are you doing?
you would have fit, right? Like, and so people don't understand that some of this stuff, as you said, becomes ingrained. So can you walk me through? I know now you want to help businesses think about this. So let's pick apart some of these industries and maybe talk about things that you'd love to see.
Well, let's start, again, I'll use some examples that were in my book. For instance, let's say you build bathtubs, okay? Bathtubs are great because people can soak in them and relax and all that. But getting into, sitting down, and getting up from a bathtub for, I don't know, a 400-pound person that's already wet and it's slippery, what about making sure that they're grab bars, making like a little seat so that they can gently get down and gently get up? I mean, there are ways to arrange something as simple as that it could make it a pleasure for them instead of a torture chamber. And we bought a house like 3 years ago, and it has one of those senior bathtubs, right? So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm getting old. I can use that. And first of all, until I lost that weight, I couldn't even get in. I had to go sideways, like you said.
And the little door is like this big on those,
yes,
it's
like my foot up on the back so I wouldn't
Yeah.
slide. And it was ridiculous, right? I mean, now I can get in and out. I still don't really like the tub though, because it's so deep, and by the time it fills, I'm cold. I use it for a shower. But so that's an attempt at that, but it's not right. So somebody needs to develop that, right? Snowshoes. I used to live in Vermont. I wanted to snowshoe. Snowshoes hold 200 pounds, or if it's a big snowshoe, it's 250. And I was more than that, and I didn't want to break the snowshoe. I didn't want to embarrass myself. I am not terribly coordinated. That's why I started Zize Bikes, because I liked biking. It was the only thing I really knew that I liked to do. And so I didn't want to fall and not get up and break the snowshoes. I mean, it was too much, and you can't find them. I look at places that like LL Bean or Land's End, places that sell, that I might look at anyway, because I live in Tennessee now, so I don't snowshoe. I never could, but because they don't have big snowshoes are like 250 pounds, right? The thing that really is
I think retail could use some help too.
Oh my
right?
God, retail is, I was just going to tell you this retail story. But before I do that, I want to preface this by saying I've sold quite a few books. I mean, they've only been out for like a week, but everyone I've sold it to are buying it because they think they're fat. They're women that think they're fat. They're not business owners. So this is something that if anyone has suggestions, how is the best way to advertise this? Because it is targeted to business, but it's really, it goes into the heart of how we feel and why it's so wrong to make us feel that way. But what I was going to tell you is, so I have this friend who she needed some clothes. She's a teacher. She went into this pretty big store locally. She didn't see anything in plus size. And they advertise that they're plus size friendly. So she goes in, can't find them. So she wanders around, finally finds somebody to ask. They say, oh, they're upstairs. So she goes upstairs and still didn't finally found somebody to ask. They're over in that corner. So like in a tiny little corner, hidden from everybody, was a really motley assortment of plus size clothes. And the part that is, I mean, that could all be changed in a heartbeat to make that welcoming to 70% of the people. But more than that is, you end up, as a heavy person, you end up buying things you don't even like because it fits. And so you end up just buying it. And that is, to me, that's a crime. There are wonderful things out there and everyone should be able to buy them. So that's the stories that I wanted to get in there to try. I don't know if I answered your
I'm
question.
imagining that. No, you did. I'm imagining that store and going all the way back, right? First of all, you're walking in, and there's probably those, the security system things that are like, 3 feet apart. You're already thinking about scooting to the side, walking in. And then a clothing store, people don't understand, is a big body person's nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Like, because all the clothes are like, there's like 1 foot of walking room around them, right? It feels so tight. So, and to go all the way to the back, it's like, I don't even want to go. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised that online shopping and sort of the rates of obesity are probably lined up
Hmm.
exactly,
Interesting. Yeah.
right? Because, I didn't, even like the local corner store when I was big, like I didn't want to go there. I felt like I was, going to knock something over, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not like this huge pervasive thought. It's not like I was sitting there, worried about knocking something over. It's just like, between my size and how the world accommodated me, it's like, okay, just forget it. I'll order on Amazon,
Well, and
right?
that's why I didn't get mad. But when I realized that nobody's making bikes, I was like, I'm so used to it. And now that I'm like, first of all, people are more aware. There's more body positivity, which has its pros and cons. And but they are more aware. And there are some people that will make up to a size like 3X. But again, they're usually a small 3X, and you don't know. Every size is different. So even ordering online is a bit of a challenge, but at least you can not fight the crowds, not have to find the part of the store. Yeah, it's sad, really. And that's the other thing, is that I think that people.
We didn't even talk about salons, barber shops,
Oh
right? Like
yeah.
those are
Yeah.
like just they can be really bad,
I know. Can you fit in the chair? Can you um but here's the thing that I think is the biggest dilemma, and that is there is a huge prejudice against fat people. And I hope people don't mind I use the word fat. I use it. But I know some people don't like it. So use whatever you're comfortable hearing. But for me, it's a huge prejudice. And
Can
so
we
this,
can we talk about that? I'm going to show that what to call people, it's the people who aren't obese and have never been obese, they said we should call it people with obesity. I'm fine saying fat person. I'm a fat person. I'm that's but I mean maybe we can call it, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. So let's come back to
no, it's
that.
absolutely true. I address it in my book. What do we call you? And that's one of the questions employers ask, like businesses. Well, I don't even know what to call those people. I don't know what they need. And these are the things that I address in this book, is like, this is what you call them. And you don't call them anything unless you need to write about them. You don't need to give them a name. So it
Well,
just,
there's a part of medicine right now that which is good. I mean, there's the beauty of medicine thinking about how do we sort of destigmatize obesity. But then it like goes, sometimes it can go overboard, right? Where it's like, no, you have to call them people with obesity. I'm like, look, I grew up in a fat family. Everybody in my family's fat. We all got the fat genes. I was 350 pounds. My
right,
entire life I was overweight. You don't have to tell me what to call me,
right,
right?
right.
I can tell you what to call me.
And
Call
that's
me.
exactly what I said, right? What are you comfortable with? If you're
Yeah.
not comfortable with this, throw it out and give me a name you want me to use. Or just, I don't need to call you anything. That drives me nuts. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But the proper word that the sort of the people who decide what's socially acceptable is people with obesity or big body people, right? That's like the commonly agreed upon, but that'll change. It's funny, and maybe Joan, you can, you know, when I was growing up, if you called somebody big boned, it was like you might as well, say that,
Fat slob.
yeah, exactly. And now we're like at big bodied people, and it's like, oh my God, it's like we've come full circle.
It's
Um,
interesting. Again, because this isn't online and I'm so used to seeing my book online, I don't know how to find anything in a real book. But I definitely, address this and how people react. I just ask them if you need to call somebody. And at one point, I was asked. I'm on the board of directors for the Institute for Human-Centered Design. I always get a little messed up with that name. But the idea is, the people that are the experts are the users. It's user experts, which is the same thing I'm saying, right? But they had asked me, a very well-known performing arts center in New York wanted them to find a better word because they used to have obese sections, and they're making new programs and they didn't know what to call it. So I did a whole bunch of research myself, and I found higher weight was the most preferred term from non-medical viewpoint, right? So that's the thing. Medical is the correct term is obese. There's no doubt about it, but fat is the correct term too. And if you don't like it, let's find another way that makes you comfortable. Or let's not call you anything. Just be you. You're another person that takes a larger size or weighs more or needs more room in the butt. I mean, the labeling,
Well, I mean, our culture is a little about getting the right, inclusive language is a big, part of some, our culture now. And so I don't blame, I think when people, my problem is I find the people who are advocating for people with obesity, sometimes they lose sight of it. They focus on the words, and it's like, hey, actually the things that matter are the feelings, and like literally, hey, where can I get a bike from? It's like, Zize Bikes, right? Like you can go to Zize Bikes, get a big size bike, right? Like it's great to be able to say, oh, you're a person with obesity. That's cool. That's like, a 1% thing. But, oh, I know the place to go, for people who need a bike. That's like actually meaningful and helpful. Or, hey, like, I'm sorry that our office has armchairs, and I know that, our halls are narrow. I just want to let you know we hear you, we feel you. Like, to be able to do that and say that, right? Versus like using the word, because it's not called morbid obesity. You kind of said that earlier on. We call it class 3 obesity now, right?
Oh, so they've changed
Now,
it. It used to be
yeah,
morbid.
they changed it. And personally, as a person who's had obesity, I'm like, I don't care what you call it, to be
Right.
honest. Are you treating me like a human? Right?
That's the whole thing. To me, it's all about dignity. Truly, it is all about dignity. And each person, no matter their size, their color, their abilities and disabilities, all that, they just deserve to be treated with dignity. And that, I feel like, in my experience as a human being and as a fat person and as a businesswoman, is fat people are forgotten. They're forgotten because it embarrasses people. They don't know. Are we supporting them? If we're making clothes for fat people, does that mean we're encouraging people to gain weight? If we're saying, oh, we'll make bigger clothes, we'll make ladders that'll hold 500 pounds. Oh, whoa, that you're just saying, go ahead and be fat, doesn't matter. It's completely crazy, because the
Yeah.
reason people get fat is not because so many things, heredity, it's because of genetics, it's because of medicine, it's because of culture, it's because of the food that they make available in this country.
Oh, 100% the food. You've got me. You got me. It's not a moral failure. I have not met, it's interesting we're having this discussion because this comes back to helping businesses. I know there's going to be business people who listen to this. We just had a huge employee wellness series, and a lot of companies have reached out to us. So I know they're listening to the podcast. So they're going to be like hearing this. And what I want you to understand is, there are people right now, okay? There are people who are big-bodied and they don't care what you call them, right? They don't care what you call them, right? And if you just change the name to people with obesity in an attempt to give them dignity, you might as well insult them, right? You might as well insult them. But if you really want to change, you really want to understand what are the needs of these people, right? What do they need? Right? Then you will make a change in your company. And then you will really understand once you start saying, how do I, exactly what you did, Joan, which is, how do I get a bike myself? And then you're like, everybody needs a bike, right? How do I lose weight myself? And then how do I help people lose weight and keep it off, right? That's the same thing I did. And so these businesses, they need to start thinking like that. And that's what your book does. It helps them to start thinking like that. And I know you do
Breaks
more.
it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you do more in this sort of field. And I think just to come back, right? What is that person's experience? What do they need when they're in, the workplace? What is it that they need to feel safe, to work most efficiently? How can we, how can we help them be their best? How can we empower them to be their best? And I think a lot of times we get lip service with the sort of, you know, what's going on in that particular sector right now. And there's a lot of movements that are trying to, uh, like I'll give you an example, and I hate to use this as an example, but Weight Watchers, um, they have for the longest time, created a community for people who are overweight, but I think, they never really addressed the body stigma, and I think the weight stigma, and I don't think they ever got nutrition right. And now they bought a medical group that very easily hands people medications, right? And on one hand, I'm like, wow, there's so much good here because, this telemedicine medical group that they're creating is creating it like people with obesity don't want to go to your small little office and sit down, right? So they're doing a service, right? But like they got the fundamentals sort of wrong. How do we empower the person in front of me should be the ultimate question, right? And it should be the ultimate, thing. And sometimes getting the companies around us to think that way, how do we truly empower these people? It's hard. So I'm curious, have you worked with these companies and how hard is it to get them to take the next step? You're not just trying to sell them something. If you're an employer and you're thinking about that population, how do I empower them? Right. And if you're trying to sell them something, how do I not disenfranchise them further? Help me understand your thoughts around these. Sorry for the long-winded question.
That's all right. It's a good example. And, for the thing for me, and I'm just going to quickly touch on this and answer your question, is Weight Watchers were always shame-based for me. And that's not going to make me lose weight. Sorry, it might out of shame, but, that's not how you live your life in any kind of holistic, healthy way. But because one of the things I do in my book is I go through very clearly the questions that people might have about changing their business. Like, what do they need? Why would they need it? What do I call them? How do I know if this works? Like all these questions that they don't have to think about because they're not being challenged because we don't have the self-confidence to challenge them. Like I didn't challenge people that they weren't building big bikes. I just made my own. I'm like, no. So the thing is, I think we need to what I want to do with people is I want to talk to them. It depends if they're looking from an employer standpoint or a customer service standpoint. But either way, customer service, you don't have to tell people that you serve pet people. You have to have pictures. You have to have store setup. You have to have product. That is how you get the word known. You can advertise, but advertise with those things. In terms of your employees, I mean, you can do customer surveys, employee surveys. You can, if you have good, strong connections. I mean, it depends on the kind of employer because there are all kinds of employers. There's some people you can talk to and some people you can't. But if it's somebody that you can talk to them, like tell them, I need, like I used to work for the state of Vermont, and they would make these like rolly desk chairs that I was afraid to sit on. I mean, they probably held 170 pounds or something, and I would like hear them squeaking as I was using, but I didn't have the self-confidence to say, I need a bigger chair. And, if you have a new employee and you see that he's a heavy person, you just get them a bigger chair. You don't have to make a deal out of it. Or you can say, we've got 3 different chairs. Do you have a preference? Right? Like, just give them some choices. You don't have to spell it out and put it in highlights. You're obese. Let's make sure you get special attention. Look, I'm a good employer. That's not what we're trying to talk about. We're trying to provide these people with dignity and joy and a way to live their life completely. And that, we all deserve that. I completely believe that. We all deserve that. And I think employers can do that much more easily than I think they think, because they're afraid of being on the wrong side, right? I don't want to support fat people. You're muted, Tro.
Jack, edit that part out, the mute part. Okay, but can I ask you another question? So, I'll use my example just as an icebreaker. At no point in my life did I ever think my weight issues were not my own fault and not my own responsibility, not my own accountability, right? At no point did I think that. I don't remember one point thinking that, even to this day, right? It's my responsibility. It's my body. I have to figure this out. In working with thousands of patients, I've yet to meet a patient who did not feel the same way. Every single one has an intense feeling of ownership, self-blame, accountability, and responsibility. And I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about your relationship to your weight? Because I think the problem with companies helping is that they feel like, well, maybe we're going to take that ownership away from people with obesity. And the reality is, there's nothing you can do to take that away. I have not met one person with obesity, not met one who didn't have an intense feeling of self-blame, ownership, responsibility.
But I bet you have plenty that have been like grateful because somebody saw that they had a need and they gave them something different and unique, because that is what will make the difference. That's not answering your question, but I think, my bikes, I have people like crying. They were so grateful that they could buy a bike that they could ride. But yes, of course, I always
that must have been so like impactful.
Oh, it's very moving.
You've dealt with people of big sizes literally coming to you because they want to do the things their doctors have told them. Turns out exercise is great for body composition, not so great for weight loss. Right. But here they are, they're coming to you, meaning like exercise builds muscles, improves mood, builds strong bones, right? And can help a little bit with fat loss. It's not the best, tool for fat loss, but the point is how many, you must have dealt with thousands of people coming to you, right? These are thousands of people who are, quote unquote, they're truly responsible, accountable people who are not only investing, they're investing lots of money to get a bike that works for them. Right. So I don't buy the narrative that we shouldn't help people with obesity because we're going to, take away they need more accountability and more responsibility. And, they need to understand that they need to take action, because both of us are in fields where I think have you met one person that didn't take responsibility or accountability?
No. But what I did want to say about that is, so, again, I'm pretty old. I'm not going to, I don't tell anybody anymore how old I am, but I'm old. And so I have gone up and down.
She's not.
I'm not really old. I'm 35. Yeah. Anyway. But the point is now, so I'm down a little over 100 pounds now after working with you, Tro. And I am at a place in my life where I still have guilt if I go off low carb. Basically, I still have guilt, but I also have a little tiny voice that's saying, but it's okay, Joan. You're healthy, which is why I wanted to lose the weight, because I was really impacting my health. And it's okay if you eat that piece of chocolate. It's not going to kill you. It might slow down your weight loss, but you're maintaining. I mean, I'm kind of learning to reason with myself. Now, I'd still like to lose more weight. I'd like to be able to buy pants anywhere, right? I'd like to be able to do things, but after all my years and doing this work for 20 years and seeing how we beat ourselves up and how everybody thinks it's their responsibility. And that's part of the problem with society accepting this is like, well, you're just fat because you just eat less and exercise more. That's everybody's answer, right? It's not like that. But what is true is, you can give yourself a little slack. You don't have to be perfect all the time. And I am learning to accept that in myself. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that reason.
100%. How many people I met 100, it's amazing what you're saying, because 100% of people coming to me are likely too hard on themselves. There's very little self-grace, self-love. And what I'm hearing from you is, you're starting to just, you're starting to have that grace.
Have a little love for myself. Yeah. And it's awesome. And, I still beat myself up. I mean, there are moments, we all have those, and it's probably not exclusive to heavy people. It's probably we all have those, but around life, I mean, I work with somebody pro who encourages me not to get too stressed out about things. And so, as I launch this book and I'm doing all sorts of things with my work and also trying to maintain and lose weight, I'm just like kind of giving myself a little break. So that's nice, because I need to allow that. And that's my whole thing is living in joy. That is the whole thing. That's why I started biking. That's why I started the company. That's why I do this book. I want all people to be able to live with joy. And I got to live it too, right? By the way, I want to say one other thing, Tro, is so all the years I've had Zize Bikes, I have refused, and I've had a number of people who have worked for me or with me who have tried to get us to talk about weight loss. And I'm like, no, it's not about losing weight. It's about exercising. And I did that long before I knew you, but just because I'm still heavy and I still volleyed up and down. So that is not an advertisement for buy this bike, you'll lose weight and get thin, right? That's not what it is. But
buy this bike to feel good in your body, have a bike that's made for you, be able to go
safe,
and
be safe, be comfortable. That's the reason to buy the bikes. But the whole thing is I refuse to say this is for weight loss. And I had to fight people about that. It's like, no, yes, that probably would sell more, but I don't want to sell things under a false name. And that's something I talk about in my book. I'd say people don't sell something to help them lose weight or look gorgeous in 2 weeks. That's not what it's about. It's about embracing life, living life with dignity, being safe, living like a human being. It's so, see, this is me getting me all fired up. So I do that. If I was me now and finding out that no bikes were available for heavy people, they would hear it from me.
I tell people, one of the things that I think a lot of people with lifelong obesity need to do, and I mean this in a healthy way, anger is an emotion, get a little angry. You mentioned the food that's around us, get a little angry, right? When you go to the supermarkets and you see everything, in the middle aisles there that have just expanded, the cereals, the chips, the crackers, the cookies, they've just
fat. You
right?
can lose weight, it's all, yeah.
Right. And I get a little angry, when the doctor says, lose, eat less, move more, and now try this drug, right? Get a little angry, right? Get a little angry. I think that little bit of anger would go a long way. You don't have to, I'm not saying blame everybody else, but start to understand it's not just you, you
No.
know, there's a lot more to this,
And not only that, like going back to my group of friends, that every one of them thinks they're fat. Every one of them is not fat. They are not fat. There are probably 5 out of 8 of us that meet in the pool every morning, and 5 of them are very healthy weights, nice figures, and yet they think they're wrong and they're fat and they're bad. And so, I mean, these people need to get rangy too, not just people who actually are fat or obese, people who actually have been embedded with these messages. It's wrong.
Yeah, I you know, yeah, 100% agree with everything you're saying, you know, which, um, I think one of the other, I think what I'm understanding more and more is that most of the corporate world, right, they will struggle to understand this. And I think all the human resource directors out there, all the CEOs that are listening to this, there's this explosion of diversity in big corporations. I think what they need to do is start to think, how can I empower these people? And they can start by getting your book. They can start by going to your company and offering, a discount to their employees, who need a bike, right? They can start by, getting a medical group that's not going to shame and blame, that's going to, put those people first, champion them, and figure out a way for them to get to their optimal health, with or without weight loss. And what we found by not even focusing on weight loss is people lose weight, right? People lose weight.
Yeah.
It's a side effect,
The side
it's a
effect
side.
of taking care of yourself, eating healthy foods, moving a little more, and also feeling better about yourself. I really
Yeah.
think that what goes in comes out, or whatever. That's not what the expression is, but cut
Yeah,
that.
no, no. Like if you're, Jack, cut that one out. But what I think you mean is, like, if you're, blaming yourself, I need to do better. I'm the reason why this is. I'm bad. I need to do better next time. I can't believe I'm still doing this. I'll do it again Monday. I'm not going to do it right now, but I need to do this, right? Like that, like, I can't. I don't want Joan to see what I look like now. I don't want, to go to the office wearing that, right? This is like a chronic attack. Like, it's a constant attack, right? And most people, right, they just, it's hard to deal with it. And if you're a company and you're thinking about how do I make my employees the best they possibly could be, you have to manage this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I know the point of this book is to get every single company out there to be thinking, how do I help Joan? How do I help Joan 30 years ago? How do I help Joan 40 years ago? Because I need a happy, healthy employee. I need a happy, healthy workforce. I need to understand this because 70% of my employees are having this thing.
Right. It's
And
huge.
and so I think I think this is going to be a really helpful, you know, and just, to make this abundantly clear, I have no financial relationships with Joan in any way. I do not make any money off of her recommending her bikes. I do not make any money recommending her book. This is just me saying go and support her and support her business because I believe in it and I believe what she's doing. Joan, any last words before we sort of part ways? And where can people find you, find your bikes, find the book, find, if there's an HR director out there or a CEO listening to this, how do they get in contact with you to start their company off on the right track or take their company to that next step?
Well, thank you, Tro. I do have a relationship with Tro because he's my doctor, but I wouldn't change that for the world. And he doesn't give me anything for this. And I don't
Yeah,
get,
but I don't get any royalties.
you
Like
don't get
that. Yeah,
anything,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So this is the book, Big Body Business, Obvious Opportunities with the Overweight, Overlooked, and Underserved. Okay. I want to just finish with this one paragraph. I was actually looking up something about something that Tro just said, but we're wrapping it up. So what higher weight people want is to find and purchase from companies in which there is pride and satisfaction in superior products. They make absolutely no judgment about the users except to welcome them and celebrate them. There should be incredible compassion from every corner of the company. These businesses will create products that are built to be safe, to be strong, to be comfortable, to work the way higher weight people need them to work. And that's really a crux of what it is. Please, I'm on Facebook. I have a group of I have a website, bodyready.org, and there's also joandenizot.com, which is my author website. Both of those have links to our Facebook pages and our Instagram and TikTok. So I know I have a weird name, so it's Denizot. It's French. I am not French. My husband is. You just don't hear the end at the T at the end, Denizot. And so thank you. I thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about this Tro and to visit with you. And I really hope that people will reach out because there's a lot of room for improvement, and I'm going to help you create it because it's important for all of us. Thank you.
Yes, I'm 100% in agreement. Thank you for listening. Dr. Brian Lenskis, you missed a good one today. I know he's going to be jealous when he hears this. Guys, go, if you need a bike and you're in a big body, it's like ZizeBikes.com.
I forgot that one. Yes.
Yeah, and, get the book on Amazon, and the links will be in the show notes. Thank you.